Taylor on Fridays at 4:30. Love this segment from somebody right there. Played it at Rice University, now a part of ESPN, has Houston and East Carolina. We'll try to get to that. Taylor, thanks for your time. I know you didn't play with him. He's older than you, but how about Bert Emanuel's son going off this past week and having a huge game in a MAC game?
Yeah, I'm sitting here wondering why my Rice Owls didn't pick him up. No, it feels like the last couple of weeks I turn on the TV on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and there goes Bert Emanuel Jr. for feels like every time I look up, it's like a 50 or 60-yard run. But he's playing well, playing at a high level for the Chiefs right now.
Taylor, last night SMU got throttled by Tulane. You've seen both those teams this year. I know that Tulane didn't need extra motivation to win any game, but I don't know if I'm SMU, if I'm thrilled about being the team that goes to play Tulane after a loss.
Well, we talked about it some on All-American on our show about how SMU was going to line up a little different than UCF did. I thought UCF with John Rice Plumlee presented some challenges that Tulane really hadn't seen all season, and that's why they got burned and lost a week ago. On the other side, SMU, I think the passing offense had been a little bit inflated the past couple weeks, especially against Houston. They put up 77 points against the Cougars, but if you go look at the secondary and the pass rush for Houston, it's been decimated with injury. They're playing with a lot of guys that really they did not expect to see meaningful snaps. So fast forward a couple weeks, that line I thought was a little closer than it should have been. And Tulane did come out on a short week with the edge between SMU and Tulane. I thought they clearly played like the team that it sounds cliche, but wanted it more, played more physical. And for Tulane, I think there's absolutely the motivation to get up on Friday, go beat Cincinnati, earn your way into the American Championship, and get a rematch against UCF.
What do you think about UCF and just how different John Rice Plumlee makes them?
They're going to be really hard to beat in the American the rest of the way, as they have been all season, because of his ability to run the football. When he's healthy, they don't do a lot in the passing game. And there were some throws early in the game, especially against Tulane, that if he hits one or two of those, that game really may have gotten out of hand early against Tulane. But they're limited in the passing game, and everybody knows that. But it doesn't really matter, because that was Tulane's answer. Was they came out, they played man defense and tried to force John Rice Plumlee to beat them, and he did. He just did it running the football. I think UCF is going to line up well really against everybody unless they show up. If they end up getting the G5 if they're the representative of the G5 in the Cotton Bowl, depending on who they play up front, if you have a physical Power 5 program that can line up and just rush forward and get after the quarterback and then play decent coverage on the back end, that's how you beat Central Florida. It's just hard to do that with a lot of the personnel that is in the American.
All right, so the Big 12 this week, TCU number 4, they're right there entrenched. Everything is in front of them, including Baylor this week. Your thoughts about how the style of game they were able to win in Austin?
I thought out of all the wins this season for TCU, that may have been the most encouraging, because TCU did exactly what it took to win, and you saved the fumble late in the game that goes for a touchdown. Really blanked Texas on all sides. The defensive effort was as good as we've seen, probably the best we've seen from TCU all season. And I think it gave validity to how good this team really is, and that no one should be surprised anymore. Any win that they get the remainder of the way, if we look up at the end of the year and they're 13-0 after the Big 12 championship, I don't think anybody should be shocked anymore. I think TCU deserves to be given the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Taylor, what are we supposed to make of Texas Tech and Iowa State this week?
Texas Tech all season has been a story of who's your quarterback going to be. All year, between Baron Morton, Tyler Shuck at the beginning of the year, Donovan Smith comes in. Tyler Shuck, I think, has the highest ceiling and has played well the last couple of weeks. And this is an opportunity for Texas Tech to get to a bowl game in year one for Joey McGuire. Iowa State has been right there as well. It really struggled on the offensive side. They've played pretty good defense, but they just have not been able to do enough on the offensive side to get very many wins. But Texas Tech, to me, the story here is if Texas Tech can get to a bowl game in year one for Joey McGuire, that is extremely encouraging, just given the roulette that we've seen within the quarterback room. Because if Tyler Shuck was healthy throughout the season, I think we're probably talking about a 7 or 8 win team as opposed to probably just a 6 win team. Maybe they get to 7. I don't know if they beat OU, but maybe. But I think that is really encouraging if you're a Red Raiders fan, if they do get to a bowl game for the first year for Joey McGuire.
Taylor, your thoughts on Kansas State? Not just necessarily the win against Baylor that's now got them, in position to go to the Big 12 title game if they can win the next two, but how different do you think they are with Will Howard in command, as he now will be with Adrian Martinez's injury, versus previously when Martinez was still the guy?
Yeah, well, first thing, I don't want to jump on the pile here, but what a letdown for Baylor. I mean, the blackout, the night game, I don't want to get your base all mad at me, but I thought it was such an opportunity to let go from Baylor. And I know I'm not saying anything people don't already know, but you talk about coming out flat. That just looks like I don't think I've seen a game all season where the energy in the building was the complete opposite of the energy that was on the field. And I thought that was really odd, especially for a Dave Aranda team. On the other side for Kansas State, I think Will Howard is the guy. And I think it's problems for the rest of the Big 12 and potentially even for TCU, assuming that's the rematch we get in the Big 12 championship. But Will Howard may actually be the better quarterback between Will Howard and Adrian Martinez. I think Kansas State top down is just a really solid football team. And if they had Adrian Martinez or Will Howard earlier in the season against TCU, they probably win that game. And we're talking about a very different looking, the Big 12 looks a lot different if that were to have happened. But I like the trajectory that Kansas State has been on. They play top down, really good, solid team defense. And they're just never out of a game. It doesn't really matter what's going on. They seem to always take last week out of it where they ran away with it. They just always seem to be hanging around the hoop in the fourth quarter. And then, again, I think that's probably who we see in the Big 12 championship in a rematch against TCU.
There are some games of interest outside of that conference, of course, with TCU in the middle of it and Kansas State coming off the nice win. Oregon and Utah is one, obviously USC, UCLA, but your thoughts about Oregon, because it appears as if Bo Nix may not, although he's a gutsy dude, may not be a part of this one.
Yeah, the last that I saw was that he was not going to go, and I think that becomes a very different team. The Pac-12, to me, is doing what they've done in years past, where they're just cannibalizing themselves again. I mean, the UCLA loss to Arizona was shocking. I do think there's a path with the Pac-12 if things go the way that we think they will in the SEC. If USC were to win out and their one loss is a close road loss at Utah, I think USC probably gets in. Now, if they were to lose and you have a two-loss champion and then you have an ACC that's down, and what happens if the Big 12, if TCU loses, then all of a sudden we start talking about all these different scenarios where do we get two Big 10 teams in, or is Tennessee going to sneak back in with Georgia? But if USC were to win out and they win their conference, if you know how much the committee values conference championships, if they were to win, I think USC is likely in, just given how I think the rest of this schedule shakes out.
Yep. Anything else? Taylor, thank you very much. Have fun with your East Carolina's. That's going to be interesting, huh?
Yeah, East Carolina and Houston. I mean, they're two teams that really very similar years. They're both 6-4, and if the ball bounces a different way for them and guys stay healthy, they're both probably closer to 9 or 8 or 9 win teams. The thing that I thought was so interesting is you haven't followed him before. Holton Ahlers, quarterback for ECU, he's broken every record in the book basically at East Carolina. From Greenville, his dad's the PA announcer. It's just like the ultimate homecoming story. So that's been interesting and kind of cool to be a part of and be on the calls this week with them. So should be a good one tomorrow.
Thank you, Taylor. Taylor McHargue, ESPN analyst, Rice quarterback, with us every Friday at 4:30 on 360.